CCS Conduct Rules 1964. Which of the following activities require permission, sanction under CCS Conduct Rules 1964? To enroll as a member of St. Johnson Ambulance Brigade, to join Territorial Army, to join foreign language classes conducted by Indo-Foreign Cultural Organization. Here the given options are A is 1 and 2, B is 2 and 3, C is 1 and 3, and D is all of these. The answer is all of these. Which of the following statements are correct according to CCS Conduct Rules 1964 and Government of India decisions thereof? It is the duty of government servant who may be convicted in a criminal court to inform his official superiors of the fact of his conviction and circumstances. Second one, failure on part of any government servant so as to inform his officials of his conviction will render him liable to disciplinary action on this ground alone, apart from the penalty called for on the basis of the offence on which his conviction was based. It is the duty of the government servant who may be arrested for any reason to intimate the fact of his arrest and the circumstances connected therewith to his official superior promptly, even though he might have subsequently been released on bail. Fourth one, failure on a part of any government servant so to inform his official superiors of his arrest will render him liable to disciplinary action on this ground alone, apart from action that may be called for on the outcome of police case against him. So these are the four different statements. You have to find out which of the following statement is correct according to CCS Conduct Rules 1964. The given options are 1 and 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, and D is all of these. Answer is all of these. That means all of these statements are correct according to CCS Conduct Rules. Prohibition of sexual harassment of working women is defined in which rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964? Is it Rule 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D? It is 3C. Identify the rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that specify oral directions to subordinates shall be avoided as far as possible, and where the issue of oral directions becomes unavoidable, the official superior shall confirm it in writing immediately thereafter. Identify that rule. That is Rule 323. Answer is C. Choose the correct rules from CCS Conduct Rules 1964 which specifies that every government servant shall all times maintain courtesy and good behavior with the public, and no government servant shall in the performance of his official duties act in a discourteous manner. Here X and Y are given. The answer is, the X is Rule 3.1, Rule 3.1.11 and Rule 3AA. Y is Rule 3AA. Any government servant not maintaining courteous or good behavior at the public or in his official performance, if he is acting in a discourteous manner while framing a charge sheet, these two rules can be quoted as a violation. A government servant acts in his official dealings with the public or otherwise is adopting a dilatory tactics or willfully causing delays in disposal of work assigned to him. This act of government servant is in contravention of what rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964? It is dilatory tactics will be spelled out in the Rule 3A. Identify the CCS Conduct Rule that defines observance of government policies. It is Rule 3B. Rule 3B defines the observance of government policies. Rule 3A of CCS Conduct Rules 1964 explain about, already we have seen, it is about promptness and courtesy of government servant. Identify the rule numbers under CCS Conduct Rules which specifies that every government shall at all times maintain devotion to duty, do nothing which is unbecoming of government servant, maintain absolute integrity. These are the three primary rules in CCS conduct rules which everyone should know. Here the answer is C. Maintain devotion to duty is rule 312, and rule 311, that is maintain absolute integrity, is 311, that is Z here, and 312 is maintain devotion to duty, that is X here, and do nothing which is unbecoming of a government servant is 313, that is Y here. So the answer is C. The rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that specifies that central government or servant shall at all times do nothing which is unbecoming of a government servant is, it is Rule 313. Strikes include mass absenteeism from work without permission, refusal to work overtime where such overtime work is necessary for the public interest, resort to practices or conduct which is likely to result in or results in cessation of or substantial retardation of work in any organization. What is called go slow, sit down, pen down, stay in. Which of the following statement is correct? Here the strike means all of these constitutes a strike. CCS conduct rules have come into force on 1964. Which of the following is an incorrect statement with reference to CCS conduct rules 1964? Prior permission is required to join Bharat Sevak Samaj. Second one, participation of government servants in Indo-foreign cultural organizations to be avoided. Mere intimation sufficient to join Samyukta Sadachar Samiti. Prior permission necessary to join foreign language classes conducted by Indo-foreign cultural organizations. Answer is C, none of these, because all of these statements are 1, 2, 3, 4 are correct. Which of the following statements are correct according to CCS conduct rules? Every person appointed to civil service or post, civil defense service, railway servants, members of all India service. Here 1 and 2 are only correct because CCS conduct rules applies to civil post, civil service or post and civil defense service, but it does not apply to railway servants or the members of all India service. Proper seating arrangements for member of parliament should be made at public functions organized by government office. In the warrant of precedence, the member of parliament appears. That means there is a warrant of precedence available based on which VIP should be offered the place or make the proper seating arrangements for the VIPs in any public meeting or in any public function. Here MP should be above the officers of rank of secretaries to the Government of India, just below the officers of rank of secretaries to the Government of India, equal rank of secretaries to the Government of India, equal to the officers of rank of joint secretaries to the Government of India. It is above the officers of rank of secretaries to the Government of India. To attend the references from committees of Parliament promptly, a senior officer should be charged with the responsibility of ensuring this at the level of, is it joint secretary or equivalent, or deputy secretary or equivalent, additional secretary or equivalent, director or equivalent? It is joint secretary or equivalent. Which of the following are not correct forms to address MP in communications? Is it member of Lok Sabha, member of Rajya Sabha, member of Parliament Lok Sabha, member of Parliament Rajya Sabha, MP Lok Sabha, MP Rajya Sabha? Which of the following is not correct? That means we should not call them by these things, by these names. It is 1 and 2 only. We should not call them member of Lok Sabha or member of Rajya Sabha. These two are not correct to call them, because we should say as member of parliament. This parliament word should not be left over. Whenever you address an MP, we should call them either member of parliament or member of parliament Lok Sabha, or if you are particular about mentioning the Sabha, you have to call them as member of parliament Lok Sabha or member of parliament Rajya Sabha, or MP Lok Sabha, MP Rajya Sabha. But we should never say member of Lok Sabha or member of Rajya Sabha in the official correspondence or communications. As per CCS Conduct Rules 1964 and GIDs, Government of India decisions thereof, while making seating arrangements at public functions, the position of member of parliament should be made in such a way that has been clearly brought out in the, already we have seen it, warrant of commitment, warrant of precedence, warrant of possession, warrant of attachment. It is the warrant of precedence. With reference to Conduct Rules 1964 and GIDs thereof, when a visitor has come to meet an officer by previous appointment and a member of parliament or of a state legislature has come without appointment, the correct course of action for the officer would be to, see for example, what the question says is, MP has come without appointment and another visitor has come with the previous appointment. Whom do you invite to meet them first? That is what it is the question. Here the options are A. See the member of parliament first by cancelling the prior appointment given to the visitor. See the member of parliament immediately after the officer has met the visitor who had come by previous appointment. Bluntly refuse to see the member of parliament. See the member of parliament first by postponing the prior appointment given to the visitor. It is a quite tricky question. It would be, the correct option would be see the member of parliament immediately after the officer has met the visitor who had come by previous appointment. In accordance with the CCS Conduct Rules 1964 and GIDs thereof, junior officer receives, if a junior officer receives oral instructions from the minister or from his personal staff, and the orders are in accordance with the norms and rules, regulations or procedures, the appropriate course of action by the junior officer would be to, whether they should implement immediately, they should be brought to the notice of secretary or head of the department for information, they should not implement at all, giving a strong oral reply as no direction is there from his immediate superior, none of these. The correct course of action would be, they should be brought to the notice of secretary or head of the department for information. According to CCS Conduct Rules and 1964 and the GIDs thereof, GID means Government of India decisions thereof, if a junior officer receives oral instructions from minister, again the same question but with a difference that his personal staff and others are not in accordance with the rule. Earlier case was it is in accordance with the rules, now it is not accordance with the rules and regulations or procedures. The appropriate course of action should be, they should implement it, they should seek further order from secretary or the head of the department, they should not implement it at all, giving a strong oral reply or none of these. Either way, it should be that they should seek further orders from the secretary or the head of the department. Which of the following statements are incorrect according to CCS Conduct Rules 1964 and GIDs thereof? Which statement is incorrect? Permission not necessary for seeking redress, courts of law, of grievances arising out of their employment or conditions of service. Joining civil defense service permissible. Third one, government servants to be encouraged to join Home Guards organization. Government servants to be encouraged to join Territorial Army. Answer is none of these. None of these are incorrect means what? Everything given here is correct. Which of the following statements are incorrect? Again the question is incorrect according to CCS Conduct Rules. Permission not necessary for seeking redress in a court of law of grievances arising out of their employment or conditions of service. Joining civil defense service permissible. Government servants to be encouraged to join in Home Guards organizations. Government servants to be encouraged to join in Territorial Army. The answer is none of these. With reference to conduct rules, conduct of the government servant in relation to proper maintenance of his family, if any legal proceedings on a claim of maintenance of family of government servant by the party affected on his behalf be pending in court of law, the course of action on this ground by the department would be. Here the question we should understand is that government servant is not maintaining properly his family. The claim of maintenance by the family, by the party affected on this behalf is pending in court of law. Then what you have to do? The action against the government servant should not be taken on this ground, as such action may be construed by the court to amount to contempt. Action against government servants should be taken as he acted in the manner unbecoming of government servant and awarded with a minor penalty. Action against the government servant should be taken as he acted in the manner of unbecoming government servant and awarded with a major penalty, to be recovered from the salary of the government servant and paid to the family by the DDO immediately. Here the course of action would be the action against the government servant should not be taken on this ground, as such action may be construed by the court to amount to contempt. In the case of permission to tenure officer to join an education course, the completion of which would require the extension of tenure of the officer concerned to come up for consideration, who should be consulted before permission is granted? Is it the DAPR? Is it DOPT? Is it UPSC? Or is it the Department of Expenditure under Finance, Ministry of Finance? It is Department of Personal and Administrative Reforms. It is given in the GID under Rule 3 of CCS Conduct Rules. Which of the following statements are correct? The complaints committee appointed with regard to complaints on sexual harassment case will have the powers to recommend to the employer to transfer the aggrieved woman or charged officer to any workplace, to grant leave to the aggrieved woman, to grant such relief to the aggrieved woman as may be prescribed, to deduct from the salary or wages of the charged officer such a sum as it may consider appropriate to be paid to the aggrieved woman. Here the question asked is, which of the following statements are correct? And the answers given are, all of these are except 2 and 4 are correct, except 1 and 2 are correct, none of these is correct, and all of these are correct. So here the answer is all of these are correct. Complaints committee constituted for redressal of a complaint made by the victim of sexual harassment should, even though there is no live case, meet to review the preparedness to fulfill all requirements of Vishaka judgment in the department, ministry or organization once in a quarter. The complaints committee established in each ministry or department or office for inquiring into complaints of sexual harassment shall be deemed to be the presenting officer appointed by the disciplinary authority, inquiry authority appointed by disciplinary authority, AGS of the victim, preliminary level inquiry authority that submits its reports to inquiry officer appointed by the disciplinary authority. It is the inquiry authority appointed by the disciplinary authority. So the complaints committee is equal to the IA. To prevent the possibility of any undue pressure of influence from senior levels, a complaint committee with reference to sexual harassment cases should involve a third party, not less than Supreme Court retired judge only, either NGO or other body who is familiar with the issue of sexual harassment, not less than High Court retired judge only, not less than District Court retired judge only. It is either NGO or other body which is familiar with the issue of the sexual harassment. Which of the following statements are correct with reference to guidelines and norms to be observed to prevent sexual harassment of working women? Only a woman should head the complaints committee. Second one, the victims of sexual harassment should have the option to seek transfer of the perpetrator or their own transfer. The victims of sexual harassment should have the option to seek the transfer of the perpetrator only. The victims of sexual harassment should have the option to seek transfer of their own transfer only. Here the options given are 1 and 3 only, 1 and 2 only, 1 and 4 only, 1 only. Answer is that 1 and 2 only. That means only a woman should head the complaints committee. That is correct. And the second one is that the victims of sexual harassment should have the option to seek transfer of the perpetrator or their own transfer. Either way they can do. They can opt. As per guidelines and norms to be observed to prevent sexual harassment of working women, complaints committee should be headed by a woman and the woman member should not be less than half of its total members, 1/4, 2/3, 1/3 of total members. It is half of its total members. As per the rules extent, except on special occasions such as tournaments, no indoor games should be played in the office buildings after 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It is 7 p.m. Which of the following activities by government servants are considered as good and sufficient reasons for taking disciplinary action? 1. Participation by government servants in proselytization, practice of untouchability. Third one, joint representations from government servants. Fourth one, non-observance of proper decorum by government servants during lunch break. The answer is all of these. What is the period within which the public body has to acknowledge or reply to each communication received from the member of the parliament? Member of the parliament should be given due respect and one has to acknowledge him and at the same time give the final reply to the member of the parliament, give a reply to the member of the parliament within certain days. What is the time limit is within 15 days for acknowledgement or 30, 15, 10, 15, 15, 30. The answer is within 15 days we should acknowledge and in the next 15 days you should reply. Which of the following statements are incorrect according to CCS Conduct Rules and GIDs thereof? The departments to ensure that members of parliament, state legislatures of area are invariable invited to public functions organized by the government office. Letters from member of the parliament, members of state legislatures must be prompted accordingly. An officer should rise to receive and see of parliament member visiting him. Information or statistics relating to matter of local importance must be furnished to MP and MLAs when asked for. The answers are 3 only, 1, 2, 3 and 4 only, all of these, none of these. It is none of these. In which part of CCS Conduct Rules 1964 the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 is reproduced? It is in the Appendix 4. No government servant shall give, take or abet dowry in accordance with the rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964. Which rule? What is that rule? It is Rule 13A. Identify the rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that speaks about the government servant possessing movable, immovable and valuable property. It is Rule 18. A government servant shall not speculate in any stock except occasional investments as per which rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964. It is Rule 16. The conduct of government servant regarding raising of subscriptions is discussed in which rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964? Is it Rule 6, 41, 12, 8? It is Rule 12. Can a retired Group A officer of a departmental post join employment in a university within 1 year of after his retirement? Does he require prior sanction of the government? Yes, prior sanction of the government is necessary. No, he cannot join any commercial employment within 1 year after his retirement. Since employment with university is not commercial, he can join there without prior sanction of the government. A Group A officer of departmental post cannot join any employment within 1 year of his retirement. The answer is C. A government servant was allotted government residential accommodation who subletted it to another government servant on a plea of shortage of government accommodation. Whether the allotment should be cancelled, no action is required to be taken. C. The allotment should be cancelled and disciplinary action should be taken against the allottee. Only disciplinary action would suffice. The allotment should be cancelled and disciplinary action should be taken against the allottee. There is a serious offence. Make the incorrect option. Here you see that the option should be incorrect one. The following act shall amount to using his influence in connection with an election by the government servant. During election, what he has, so the following act is influence is treated as influence. Canvassing in support of any political party during the election to any legislature or local authority, using his right to vote or to give indication of the manner in which he has voted, using his right to vote to a particular party, display on his person, vehicle or residence of any electoral symbol, using the right to vote to any particular party. A government servant having spouse living contracts for marriage without any valid reason, whether he can do so, he cannot do so as per conduct rules. A government servant serving in an area where prohibition is in force appears in a public place in a state of intoxication. It is objectionable. He may do so after office hours. It is violative of CCS Conduct Rules 1964. It is violative of excise rules of the state. It is violative of Rules 1964. Recognize the correct option. In any other case other than from the near relatives or personal friends on occasions such as weddings, anniversaries, funerals or religious functions, a government servant holding Group C or Group D post shall not accept any gifts without sanction of the government if the value exceeds 2,000, 5,000, 7,500, 15,000. Here it is Group C or Group D other than from the near relatives and personal friends on the occasion of weddings. So other than weddings and functions, how much it is allowed is 2,000. In any other case other than from near relatives or personal friends or occasions such as weddings, anniversary, funerals or religious functions, a government servant holding Group A or Group B shall not accept any gifts without sanction by the government if the value exceeds 2,000, 5,000, 15,000 and 25,000. It is 5,000 other than from the near relative. Choose the correct option. A government servant holding Group A post may accept gifts from near relatives or personal friends on occasions such as weddings, anniversaries or religious functions. In such a case, what is that amount that a person can accept gift is up to 5,000, 7,500, 15,000 or 25,000. The answer is for Group A it is 25,000. The government servant holding Group B post may accept gifts from the near relatives or personal friends on the occasion of weddings, anniversaries and religious functions is 15,000. A government servant holding the post Group C may accept gifts from the near relatives or personal friends on occasion of weddings, anniversaries and religious functions is 7,500. Government servant may own wholly or in part or conduct or participate in editing or management of any newspaper or other publications, and while doing so he shall obtain previous sanction of the government. A government servant approached through local MP for an out-of-turn allotment of government residential accommodation. Whether he can do so, such act is objectionable. It is violative of CCS Conduct Rules. None of these is applicable. It is violative of 1964, Conduct Rules 1964. Every government servant should maintain his family in a proper way. In case he is avoiding his family, there is no concern of the government with the family of the government servant. This is social responsibility of the government servant. All the above statements are incorrect. The fourth option is whether it constitutes as it is against CCS Conduct Rules. It is against CCS Conduct Rules. According to which rule of CCS Conduct Rules, 1964 that no government servant shall use his position or influence directly or indirectly to secure employment for any member of his family in any company or firm. It is Rule 4. Which of the following statements are incorrect according to CCS Conduct Rules? With regard to the employment of near relatives of government servant in companies or firms, the term employment includes apprenticeship, employment on commission, limited to contracts or dealings with the government departments and PSUs, employment on agency basis limited to contracts and dealings with government departments and PSUs. Incorrect. It is said incorrect, and the answer is all of these. All of these are incorrect. Which of the following statement is correct as per CCS Conduct Rules 1964? For the acceptance of employment in any foreign organizations in India by any member of family of government servant, prior permission or prior intimation is necessary. Later intimation is necessary. No prior permission is required. No, not permitted at all. Prior permission or intimation is necessary. Under CCS Conduct Rules 1964, employment of near relatives of government servants in companies or firms is defined in Rule 3, Rule 4, Rule 5, Rule 6. It is Rule 4. What is the maximum period within which a representation made by government employee requiring examination only in the ministry or department, and if requiring interdepartmental consultation should be disposed of? Here there are two questions within the same question. What is the maximum period for disposing the representation? The answers are 6 weeks and 3 months, 3 weeks 3 months, 6 weeks 2 months, 2 weeks 2 months. It is 6 weeks and 3 months. 6 weeks for ministry if it is within ministry, and if requiring interdepartmental consultation, it should be within 3 months. It should be disposed. Submission of representation directly to the higher authorities bypassing the prescribed channel of communication can be treated as conduct attracting the Rule 312 of CCS Conduct Rules 313, 311, 323. It is 313. That is unbecoming of government servant. What actions of the government servant would amount to criticism of government is discussed in which CCS Conduct Rule? It is Rule 9. Rule 10 of CCS Conduct Rules deals with observance of government policies, demonstrations and strikes, evidence before committee, taking part in elections. It is evidence before committee. Identify the rule under CCS Conduct Rule that speaks about demonstrations and strikes. It is Rule 7. A government servant cannot ask for or accept contributions as per CCS Conduct Rule. Rule 12. In which part of the CCS Conduct Rules a list of delegations under CCS Conduct Rules are appended? It is in the Appendix 2. It is in accordance with which rule under CCS Conduct Rules that a government servant shall submit a return of his assets and liabilities in the prescribed form. It is Rule 18. Any government servant may give evidence in any judicial inquiry as per which rule of CCS Conduct Rules? It is 10(3)(b). Which of the following statements are incorrect? The definitions of movable property provided in explanation 1 under Rule 18 of CCS Conduct Rules 1964 includes jewellery, insurance policies, shares, debentures and security, motor vehicles. Answer is none of these. Here in the question you have to see that it is incorrect and the answer is none of these. That means everything given here is correct. That means movable property includes jewellery, insurance policies, shares, debentures, securities and motor vehicles. Every government servant shall at all times maintain absolute integrity as per Conduct Rule 311. Which rule under CCS Conduct Rules provides that previous sanction is necessary to contest in elections to sports bodies? It is 1517. This rule of CCS Conduct Rules deals with observance of government policies. What is the identify that rule? Rule 3b. Political neutrality is expected by the government servant as per this CCS Conduct Rules. What is that rule? It is Rule 5. Which of the following statements are incorrect? CCS Conduct Rules are applicable to employees of Department of Post, the staff of non-statutory departmental canteens, every person appointed to civil service post a civilian defense service. Here none of these is correct because here the question is incorrect. But here are the given employees, all these come under the CCS conduct rules because CCS conduct rules are applicable to all of these staff. The rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that deals with promptness and courtesy of a government servant is Rule 3A. What is the rule under CCS Conduct Rules? That speaks about government servant vacation of government accommodation. It is 15A. Rule 11 of CCS Conduct Rules deals with observance of government policies, demonstration and strikes, communication of official information, taking part in elections. It is communication of official information, Rule 11. The rule that speaks about insolvency and habitual indebtedness under CCS Conduct Rules is Rule 17. Specify the rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that speaks about government servant employing children below 14 years of age. It is 22A, Rule 22A. Identify the correct rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that specifies every government servant shall at all times observe the government policies regarding prevention of crime against women. It is Rule 3B2. The rule of CCS Conduct Rules that speaks about prohibition of sexual harassment of working women is 3C. The rule of CCS Conduct Rule that speaks about government servant accepting gifts is Rule 13. Rule 13 speaks about gifts. Rule 18 of CCS Conduct Rules deals with observance of government policies, investment, lending and borrowing, evidence before committee or any other authority, movable and immovable and valuable property. It is movable and immovable valuable property. A government servant in the bona fide discharge of his official duties can publish a book as per CCS Conduct Rules, Rule 6, 41, 71, 82. It is Rule 82. A government servant can undertake the following act without previous sanction. A participate sports activities as professional, take part in management of cooperative society registered under Cooperative Societies Act 1912 by holding an elective office, take part in the management of club relating to promotion of commercial activity, undertake occasional literary work. It is undertake occasional literary work. On finding of subletting of government accommodation to any unauthorized person, the following action should be taken besides vacation. Disciplinary action under Rule 14 may be initiated. The time limit beyond which permission in respect of transaction in movable and immovable property may be assumed to have been granted by the competent authority in the absence of any communication, 7 days from the date of receipt of request from the government servant, 15 days, 30 days, 60 days from the date of receipt of government servant. The answer is 30 days from the date of receipt of government servant. A Group A officer, while accepting gifts from near relatives, personal friends, which with no official dealing, should report to the government if the value of the gift exceeds 25,000. Which of the following does not require permission under CCS Conduct Rules? Joining educational institution by government servant beyond normal office hours, joining civil defense service by this government servant, seeking redress in the courts of law of grievances arising out of employment or condition of the service by a government servant, joining territorial army by government servant. Here the question is which does not require permission. It is seeking redress in court of law of grievance arising out of employment or condition of service of government servant. Which rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964 says that every government servant shall report to the government if any member of his family is engaged in trade or business? It is 15.3, Rule 15.3. Which of the CCS Conduct Rule prevents a government servant from subletting of a government accommodation which has been allotted to him to any other person? It is 15A. As per CCS Conduct Rules 1964, the absence from work of a government servant on account of participation in Gharo should in all cases be treated as unauthorized absence involving break in service. No government servant shall in the performance of his official duties act in a discourteous manner and in his official dealings with the public adopt dilatory tactics as per CCS Conduct Rules Rule 313, Rule 3B, 3A, 317. It is Rule 3A. Mobile property as per CCS Conduct Rules 1964 is defined as all of the following except jewelry and insurance policies, the annual premium which exceeds 2 months basic pay, shares and debentures, all loans, savings accounts, deposits. It is savings account deposits. Whether a government servant can enter into marriage with prior permission, with a person having spouse living, with a person having spouse living and the personal law applicable permit, with a person who have applied for divorce, none of these. It is with a person having spouse living and the personal law applicable permits. Here one should be careful that the personal law here mentioned is only for Muslims. The Hindu marriage act does not allow for second marriage with a spouse living. Which of the following can be accepted by a government servant? To take an insurance agency, negotiation for another employment, participate in a sponsored media program, undertake a honorary work of social or charitable nature. The answer is D. Which of the following activities does not attract violation of CCS conduct rules? Collection of contribution from any religious activity, collection of subscription for any political party, collection of funds for service union, none of these. It is collection of funds for service union. Strike includes the following actions by the government servant under CCS conduct rules: mass casual leave, refusal to work overtime, where such overtime work is necessary in the public interest, practice of go slow, all of these. It is all of these. Which of the following action is not misconduct under CCS conduct rules? Habitual late attendance, conviction by court of law, willful insubordination of superiors, attendance as witness in departmental inquiry. It is attendance as witness in departmental inquiry. As per Rule 3C of Conduct Rules, which of the following behavior amounts to sexual harassment of women at her workplace? Demand or request for sexual favors, talking to women colleagues, helping women in discharge of official duties, talking to women colleagues over phone. It is A. Rule 21 of CCS Conduct Rules 1964 deals with the observance of government policies, investments, lending and borrowing, restrictions regarding marriage, insolvency and habitual indebtedness. It is restrictions regarding marriage. What is the rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 which provides that a government servant shall not be a member of any political party? It is 5.1, Rule 5.1. A government servant shall not use intoxicating drink or drug to excess as per which rule of CCS Conduct Rules? It is Rule 22D. Identify the rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 that specifies the government servant's criticism of government. It is Rule 9. The rule under CCS Conduct Rule that regulates the lending and borrowing of money by the government servant is Rule 16. With reference to CCS Conduct Rules 1964, sanction in connection with recourse to court or to the press for vindication of acts and characters of the government servant may be assumed to have been granted if no communication is received within 3 months, 1 month, 2 months, no such time. It is 3 months. In accordance with CCS Conduct Rules, permission in connection with transaction of immovable properties outside India or foreigners may be assumed to have been granted if no communication is received within 60 days. With regard to CCS Conduct Rules, permission in accordance with accepting gifts may be assumed to have been granted if no communication is received within 30 days. According to CCS Conduct Rules 1964, permission in connection with transaction of mobile and immovable properties may be assumed to have been granted if no communication is received within 30 days. As per CCS Conduct Rules 1964, permission in connection with press or radio activities may be assumed to have been granted if no communication is received within 30 days. A government servant holding a Group A or Group B post shall submit an annual return giving full particulars regarding the immovable property inherited, owned or acquired by him under which rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964. It is under Rule 18.1.2. Government servants participating in fundraising efforts to National Foundation of Communal Harmony is permitted under which rule of CCS Conduct Rules 1964? It is GID 6 below Rule 12. Identify the rule under CCS Conduct Rules which provides that a government servant shall not be a member of political party. It is 5.1. Which rule under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 speaks about delegation of powers? It is Rule 24. No government servant shall enter into or contract a marriage with a person having spouse living is as per Conduct Rules 21.1. No government servant shall lend money to any person at interest as per Conduct Rules 16.4b. According to CCS Conduct Rules, which of the following activities of government servant requires prior permission or sanction? 1. To accept international awards. 2. To publish a book himself or through a publisher in the bona fide discharge of his duties. 3. To participate in Flag Day collections on a voluntary basis. 4. To participate in fundraising efforts of the National Foundation of Communal Harmony. The answer is B. 1 only. That is to publish a book himself or through publisher in a bona fide discharge of his duties. As per Rule 21 of CCS Conduct Rules, which of the following statements are incorrect? 1. Government servant shall not marry a person having a spouse living. Government servant having a spouse living should not marry a person. Government servant may marry a person having a spouse living with the permission of central government when such marriage is permissible under personal law applicable and there are other grounds for doing so. 4. Government servant having a spouse living can marry a person with permission of the central government when such marriage is permissible under personal law applicable and there are other grounds for doing so. What is the answer? The answer is none of these. Here in the question you can see that which of the following statements are incorrect, and the answer is none of these. That means all of these statements are correct. No government servant shall, in his performance of his official duties or in the exercise of powers conferred on him, act otherwise than his best judgment except when he is acting under the direction of his official supervisor as per which rule of CCS Conduct Rules? It is Rule 322. Explanation under this rule of CCS Conduct Rules says that display by government servant on his person, vehicle or residence any electoral symbol shall amount to influence in connection with an election. It is Rule 5.4. Time limit within which a government servant has to report to the prescribed authority when a government servant enters into transaction in respect of movable property in accordance with CCS Conduct Rules is 1 month. Which of the following activities by the government servants do not involve infringement of CCS Conduct Rules 1964? 1. Collection by government servant for Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Fund, fundraising efforts to National Foundation for Communal Harmony, collections of contributions to National Defence Fund, Flag Day collection, sponsoring of funds by within members of service association, approaching public for fundraising for welfare activities of union without prior permission. The answer is, here the question is which of the following does not involve infringement of CCS Conduct Rules? So the answer is C, that is 2, 3, 4 and 5. That means one collection of government servants for Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Fund is not correct, and it is just an infringement of CCS Conduct Rules. Which of the following activities does not involve infringements under Rule 10 of CCS Conduct Rules 1964? Individual government servants submitting memoranda to pay commission in their individual capacity other than individual grievances, tendering evidence before Administrative Reforms Commission, giving evidence in a departmental inquiry ordered by the authorities subordinate to the government, giving evidence in a judicial inquiry. Which of the following is not an infringement? So all of these are not infringements, they can do. The details of such employees who participated in any form of mass casual boycott or work by government servant as per GID 5 under Rule 7 of CCS Conduct Rules have to be intimated by the concerned officers where such event took place to the administrative ministry or department concerned for a decision on how to treat the unauthorized absence occasioned by such an action by employee within, is it 10 days of such incident, 15 days, 7 days, 1 day. It is 15 days. Disciplinary action should be taken against the prominent participants in the Garau contravention of the following CCS conduct rule. It is Rule 3 and Rule 7. Authority competent to decide whether the objectives or activities of association attract the provisions of Rule 6. Not below the level of disciplinary authority, not below the level of head office, head of the department and JCM. It is not below the level of the head of the department. As cited in GIDs under CCS Conduct Rules 1964 and Representation of People's Act 1951, the penalty for government servant for acting as election agent, polling agent, counting agent of a candidate at election is punishable with imprisonment for a term which may not extend to 3 months or with fine or with both. Which of the following activities by the government servants do not involve infringement of CCS Conduct Rules 1964? Associations, unions displaying notices in the office premises relating to the following matters: the date, time, place and purpose of meeting, statements of accounts of income and expenditure of unions and associations, announcements regarding holding of elections other than canvassing, reminders to memberships of association and unions, announcements relating to the matters of general interest to members of associations or unions that are not in the nature of criticism, are not subversive of discipline and do not contain objectionable language. The answer is options are 1 only, 3 and 5, all of these, none of these. It is none of these. None of these is an infringement of CCS conduct rules. Choose from the following activities by the government servant which do not involve in infringement of CCS conduct rules 1964. Joining RSS, joining Jamaat-e-Islam, join Anand Marg, join extremist left parties. The answer is none of these. Why? Because all of these they do not support the CCS conduct rules. They are against the CCS conduct rules to join in these organizations. Identify which of the following does not constitute any infringement to CCS conduct rules and GIDs thereof. Join Bharat Sevak Samaj with prior permission, participation of Indo-Foreign cultural organizations, mere intimation to joining Samyukta Sadachar Samiti, join foreign language classes conducted by Indo-Foreign cultural organization without prior permission, participation in activities of Dharma Pracharak Samstha, participation in activities of Doordarshi Party. Here, which of the following does not constitute as infringement? That means they are in consonance with the conduct rules. We have to identify those things. It is 1 and 3. That means join Bharat Sevak Samaj with prior permission. It does not constitute as infringement of conduct rules. And 3 is mere intimation on joining Samyukta Sadachar Samiti. It is not a violation. Which of the following activities by government servants will be constituted as infringement of Rule 5 under CCS Conduct Rules 1964? We know that Rule 5 relates to politics. Arranging for crowds to political meetings, arranging only transport for bringing the crowds to a political party, taking part in political rallies, participating in political demonstrations only in the vicinity neighborhood of government offices. Answer is all of these. All of these are the activities that will be constituted as infringement. Arranging crowds is also not correct. Which of the following activities of government servant are constituted as assisting of political movement and involves infringement of Rule 5 of CCS Conduct Rules? Assisting the conduct of election in the due performance of duty imposed on him by or under any law for time being in force, frequent or regular attendance by the government servant at meetings of any particular political party, to keep himself informed regarding the aims, objectives and activities of different political parties through different mediums of press, government servant proposing or seconding the nomination of candidate at an election, government servant acting as polling agent, government servant acting as polling officer. Options are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 only, 2, 4, 5, 7 only, 4, 5, 6, 7 only, all of these. It is B. 2, 4, 5, 7 only. 2 is frequent regular attendance by government servant at meetings of political party will also be treated as infringement of conduct rules. Fourth one is government servant proposing or seconding nomination. That is not correct. And fifth one is acting as polling agent. That is not at all proper. And seventh one is speaking in a political meeting, in a political party, of a political party, that is not correct. Acting as policing officer is correct as a part of his duty. Suppression of information in close relation form to be filled by government employees on the first appointment will be considered a major departmental offence, for which punishment may extend to removal from service, dismissal from service, compulsory retirement from service, withholding of his promotion. It is dismissal from service. When a government servant takes part in the registration, promotion or management of literary, scientific or charitable society or club or similar organization, the aims and objects of which relates to promotion of sports, cultural, recreation activities registered on Society Registration Act 1860 of cooperative society substantially for the benefit of government servants registered under Cooperative Societies Act 1912, he shall report to the government giving details of nature of his participation from his taking part in such activity within a period of 1 month. No government servant shall, except with the previous sanction of the government, receive any complimentary or valedictory address or accept any testimonial or attend any meeting or entertainment held in his honor or in the honor of any other government servant as per Rule 14 of CCS Conduct Rules. However, which of the following activities are treated as not a violation of the above rules? A farewell entertainment held on the occasion of his retirement or transfer, the acceptance of simple and inexpensive entertainment arranged by the public bodies or institutions, acceptance of awards with a monetary component by the government servant from private organizations. Options are 1 and 2 are correct. All of these are correct, and 3 only and none of these. Here the answer is 1 and 2. A farewell is allowed and the acceptance of simple inexpensive entertainment is allowed, but acceptance of awards with a monetary component by government servant from private organizations is not allowed. Which of the following statements are true according to CCS Conduct Rules? Dowry includes Stridhanam among Christians. Dower in case of persons to whom Muslim personal law Shariat applies. Mahar in case of persons to whom Muslim personal law Shariat applies. Property or valuable security that is given or agreed to be given either directly or indirectly to any one by one party to a marriage to other party in the marriage. Which of the following statements are true? Dowry includes. Here it is 1 and 4 are correct. Dowry includes Stridhanam and property or value security that is given or agreed to be given either directly or indirectly to one party by one party to another in a marriage to another party is construed as dowry. But dower and mahar as per Muslim personal law will not be construed as dowry. Which of the following activities by government servant will be construed as violation of CCS Conduct Rules? Acceptance of invitation of free inaugural flights by the government servants and the members of their family when offered by Air India. Acceptance of passage or hospitality by officers from foreign contracting firms. Acceptance of arms and ammunition in the prohibited category as presents. Acceptance of award or prize by government servants from Rotary Club. A casual meal offered as a social hospitality. Acceptance of tips or bakshis from the members of public when offered voluntarily. Here you have to identify which of the following activities are considered as violation of CCS Conduct Rules. That means which are not correct according to CCS Conduct. The answers are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6. C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and last one is all of these. So you remember all of these. Acceptance of free inaugural flights. The answer is C. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 are correct. Fifth one, what is that? Fifth one is the casual meal offered as social hospitality is allowed. Even Rotary prize awarded to the government servant by Rotary Club is not as per rules. And the tips and bakshis definitely that should not be accepted. What would be the departmental action against subletting of government accommodation according to him by the government servant to any other person? He shall initiate disciplinary proceedings under Rule 14. In accordance with CCS Conduct Rules, 1964. No government servant shall be allowed to hold elective office in a sports association federation for one term or for a term of more than 4 years or whichever is less. Choose the correct match with reference to CCS conduct rules and provisions. Match 1 and with the 2. Here 1 is enroll with bar association as an advocate, engage himself in legal profession either independently or otherwise for so long as he continues in government service. Participation in any competition, social event organized by private companies, organizations that promote their businesses, hold elective office in cooperative credit societies. Here the second one is Roman 2, it is may be permitted, need for previous sanction, not permitted unless special reasons for doing so, for prior permission necessary. Here the options are, you have to match it. Here the options are, it is correct answer is B. That is A is 1. Enroll with the bar association as an advocate, it may be permitted. Engagement himself in legal profession either independently or otherwise for so long as he continues in the government servant is not to be permitted unless special reasons for doing so. And C, participation in any competition, a social event organized by private companies, organizations that promote their business need for previous sanction. And D is hold elective office in cooperative societies also need for previous sanction. Identify correct match with CCS conduct rules and their provisions. Match 1 with 2, Roman 1 with 2. Canvassing by the government servants of business of life insurance agency, commission agency owned or managed by members of family. Canvassing by government servants of business of advertising agencies owned or managed by members of the family. Negotiating for commercial employment while in service. Appointment as authorized agent national savings. Here this column 2 is may be permitted, need for previous sanction, not permitted for special reasons, and prior permission is necessary. Here you have to match them. These are the 4 options. The correct answer is B. Canvassing by government servants of business life insurance commission agency owned by members, it needs previous sanction. That is why A is equal to 2. And B, canvassing by government servants of business of advertising agencies owned or managed by members of family, it is need for previous sanction. Negotiating of commercial employment while in service, it is not permitted unless special reasons for doing so. Appointment as authorized agent national savings, it needs for previous sanction. Match the following with reference to CCS conduct rules 1 and 2. May be permitted, need sanction, need not allowed, prior permission necessary. Acceptance of part-time examinership of examination paper set by or recognized universities, part-time lecturership, part-time employment after office hours, accepting remuneration for services rendered to the cooperative societies. So you have to match it. These are the 4 options given. The option B is correct. That is may be permitted. Here may be permitted. That is 1. Acceptance of a part-time examination of examiner paper set by recognized universities may be permitted. Part-time lecturership need sanction, and part-time employment after office hours is not allowed, and acceptance of remuneration of for services rendered to cooperative societies, prior permission is necessary. The circumstances under which the government of India would constitute such a state of indebtedness as to render it undesirable that the debtor should be retained in public service. Under what circumstances government of India would consider the debtor as undesirable to be retained in public service? Cases where salary of the government servant is consistently being attached for debt or has been continuously under attachment for more than 2 years, or is attached for a sum which under ordinary circumstances will require more than 2 months to repay. The second point is also the same, except that it is more than 6 months to repay. C is more than 1 year to repay, and D is more than 18 months to repay. The answer is it is more than 2 years to repay. And if it is more than 2 years to repay, it will be treated as undesirable in public service. To which category of people CCS conduct rules will apply? Personal staff of ministries whose appointment is coterminous with the term of the office of minister, canteen tiffin room staff, corporate undertakings controlled or financed partly by central government, all of the above. It is all of the above. Which rule of CCS Conduct Rules prevents a government servant from subletting a government accommodation which has been allotted to any other person? It is 15A. Rule 22A of CCS Conduct Rules prohibits government servant from employing children below the age of 14 years. Which of the following transactions would not attract the provisions of sub-rules 2 and 3 of Rule 18 under CCS Conduct Rules? A government servant who transfers any immobile property or mobile property exceeding the prescribed monetary limit in value, transactions entered into spouse or any other family member of a government servant out of his or her own funds, including then gifts, inheritance, as distinct from the funds of government servant himself in his or her own name and in his or her own right exceeding the monetary limits prescribed in Rule 18 under CCS Conduct Rules. Third one, cash prize won by wife of government servant in a crossword puzzle competition exceeding monetary limits prescribed in Rule 18. NS is purchased exceeding the monetary limits prescribed in Rule 18. Which of the following does not attract? That is the question. All of these 3 and 2, 2 and 1 and 3. These are the options given. The answer is 2 only. That is, the transactions entered into spouse or any other family members government servant out of his or her own funds, as distinct from the funds of government servant himself in his or her own name or in his or her own right exceeding the monetary limits. Which of the following statements are correct with reference to set of sanctions that are required for the sale of cars purchased in advance from the government servant? Sanction under para 256(5) of GFR is to be obtained first, then secondly the permission of the competent authority under Rule 18(3) of CCS Conduct Rules relating to transaction of mobile party is to be obtained, clearly stating GFR sanction is obtained first. Or second one, firstly the permission of the competent authority under Rule 18(3) of CCS Conduct Rules relating to transactions of mobile properties to be obtained. Thereafter, secondly, the sanction of para 256(5) of GFR is to be obtained, clearly stating that the permission of CCS Conduct Rules is obtained first. Third one is both sanction under 256(5) or of GFR and permission of competent authority under Rule 18(3) of CCS Conduct Rules relating to transactions of mobile property is to be obtained on the same date simultaneously, and neither sanction under para 256 of GFR nor permission by the competent authority under 18(3) of CCS Conduct relating to transactions of mobile property is required. Which of these statements is correct? Actually, the first statement is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4 are given. The answer is first statement, that is sanction under para 256 of GFR is to be obtained first, then secondly the permission of the competent authority under Rule 18(3) of CCS Conduct Rules 1964 relating to transactions of mobile property is to be obtained, clearly stating GFR sanction is to be obtained first. This is the correct answer. How many sets of sanctions are required for sale of cars purchased in advance by the government servants? Actually, the both sanction under 256(5) of GFR and permission of competent authority under Rule 18(3) of CCS Conduct Rules relating to transaction of mobile property are required. Sanction of prescribed authority is necessary if the expenditure to be incurred on repairs or minor construction work in respect of any mobile property belonging to the government servant is estimated to exceed 10,000. Government servant may exempt any category if the government servants belonging to the class 3 or class 4 from any of the provisions of Rule 18 except sub Rule 4 of CCS Conduct Rules. No such exemption shall however be made without the concurrence of Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, UPSC, DAPR or Cabinet Secretary, Department of Personnel. It is Cabinet Secretary, Department of Personnel. Where a government servant enters into a transaction in respect of mobile property either in his own name or in the name of the member of his family shall report to the prescribed authority if the value of such property exceeds 2 months basic of the government servant within, what is the time limit? Is within 1 month from the date of transaction. when a salary of a government servant is consistently being attached for a debt or has been continuously under attachment for more than prescribed period, that will render it unconsiderable, it undesirable that the debtor should be retained in public service. In such cases, it is whose duty to obtain full schedule of debts and draw up a report and submit it to the appropriate punishing authority. Is it DDO only, the head of the office, authority immediately superior to the debtor, or disciplinary authority only, or none of the above? It is the head of the office or the authority immediately superior to the debtor. So thank you.